Hello and welcome back to the Lowdown, everybody, and joining myself and Mikey McCubbin today, we have Arsenal royalty in the building. It's Clive Palmer. Clive, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, actually. Funny that, isn't it? I'm doing quite well.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. On today's episode, guys, we are going to be comparing the current iteration of Arsenal, 25-26, against the Invincibles, and we will get into that in due course. But Clive, we've got to kick off with a magnificent start to the season from Arsenal. 8 successive clean sheets. I think it's for the first time since 1903, and back in 1903 they did it across 2 seasons. You're on track for 95 points in the Premier League as it stands. You've opened up a comfortable lead. You must be in dreamland right now.
Yeah, so all those words you just said have made me feel nervous. Because it's interesting, because obviously football, we're all on a journey, aren't we? Whatever team we love, and so we're used to picking at the issues that we have, and other people doing the same. And all of a sudden, everyone's saying how good we are. So that is that emotional challenge for us all, maybe. Actually, we could be quite good. How do we feel about this, you know? And of course, your brain naturally looks for the next thing that can go wrong. Unfortunately, we're Arsenal. We've always got an injury around the corner. But even with injuries, we're managing to overcome that and keep the rungs going. So I do sense, and we've spoken before, Dougie, so I've sensed a renewed focus on the details. I mean, it's incredible. You know, the focus to want to achieve a victory is just huge. And you can just see it just coming out the pitch. And in games when previously we may have gone in there a little bit easy, we've really gone in there. Even the European games, we really focused. So just see how long it can go for.
The last time we had you on, I think it was not too long after the 1-0 loss to Liverpool. Liverpool at that point were really in the ascendancy, despite, you know, their early season performances, you know, suggesting a little bit of what was to come in terms of going late in games, having to dig deep every single weekend. To be fair, when we had you on, even though, you know, already there seemed to be pressure on Arteta and Arsenal, having fallen behind a bit in the title race, fairly, you know, I think you seemed fairly relaxed. I think we were all fairly relaxed about Arsenal's kind of title hopes. But compared to that start of the season, where I guess we hadn't seen the new signings so much, you know, I guess we get to see someone like Zubimendi really strut his stuff week in, week out. What's been the key difference between your feelings towards the team at the start of the season and now where Arsenal are now?
I was always okay with where we were. I felt the Liverpool game was misread. I felt it was 2 teams that were very cagey towards each other. But they got the great goal, 8 minutes to go, and they walk away with the plaudits, and we walk away with the questions. And that's part of it. I think I looked at Liverpool from afar, and we spoke about the instability at fullbacks, lack of physicality at fullbacks, and it's manifested itself. Now they've changed it. They've reverted back in midfield. They've got Slobosai back in there, so they got their normal midfield back together. And so those instabilities were there. With us, I feel what we've done is we've added a new style of play, and it's driven by the primary skills of our centre forward and also the trend in the game. I feel last year there was a lot of settled attacks versus settled defences, low block games, round the horseshoe. We all know what we all saw. I think there's been a driver to attack unsettled defences. So how do you do that? You go direct a bit sooner. If you've got a centre forward who doesn't mind running, why not play to him? And so there's been a change in our play style. We're far more transitional, and we are far more, rather than getting to attacking shape, before we attack, we just attack. And it's really made the pitch a bit bigger for us. And also, I think within the team, we used to play with what I call pods of 3. So we all know this, for example, White, Odegaard, Saka, 3. That's our 3. If you look at the team now, we're playing a lot more in 2s. So we've got a centre mid 2. We've got Timber and Saka on the right-hand side. We've got Calafiori and, say, Trossard on the left-hand side. You know, and we're starting to see an Eze and Gyokeres in the forward areas. So we're playing in pods of 2. And then if you're smart, what you do is you try to overload and make a 2-pod of 3. And then you get a +1 in those areas. So I think we've really changed how we play. And we've changed our relationships in the team. And it's allowed people scope to come out of their pairs and go into other areas. And I really love the structures he's put in place.
Does that make you feel quite comfortable then if, you know, you have been able to kind of create this new style of play without the captain Martin Odegaard, with Martinelli missing games, with Gabriel Jesus and Havertz unable to play so far this season, And do you think this new style of play is less reliant on any single player than in previous seasons where Arsenal's title challenges have been undone by injuries and a lack of depth?
When Odegaard was out start of last year with the injury of his ankle, we did this sort of system then, but it didn't work so well. But I think we've upgraded those players. The centre midfield is better. Timber's really gone on this year, and so that right-hand side has got far more all-court ability. You know, Calafiori was injury risk last year. Now he's somebody that no one can read, and so we look a lot more balanced. I think when Odegaard comes back, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because he is so good in all phases of play, and he is our tactical leader going forward and pressing and everything that we do. So when he left the team, he was the king of the hill. Now the team is functioning. When he comes back, how does he layer into the team? What his role will be? He doesn't need to play all the passes, take all the set pieces, and then clean the dressing rooms on the way out as well. He doesn't need. He doesn't need to do that. So it's interesting to see how he does. When he did play against Olympiacos, we were just magnificent. But it was Olympiacos, wasn't the sternest test. Yeah. But I'm interested to see how Odegaard and Havertz really come into this group.
It's interesting you mentioned that about Odegaard, and the fact that he probably won't have quite as much work to do coming back into this team as he has done in the past. I was looking at Bukayo Saka's, I mean, you can look at his goal and assist numbers, but also at his underlying numbers. His shots are down to a career low. He's creating fewer chances than he has done in years. He's making less progressive passes. Do you think there is, do you think Saka as an individual is maybe having a bit of a dry patch, or do you think he was just being asked to do too much before, and now he's just part of such a well-oiled machine that actually no one has to be putting up consistently world-class numbers for this team to win the league?
I see a maturity in the team now. So if we're 2-0 up, I used to have a phrase that we used to play 2-0 football at 1-0. Used to petrify me, right? So now we're playing 2-0 football at 2-0. And we need to be sort of economical in our efforts. And for example, Saka now, knowing the fact that we have got some forward injuries, he needs to be there at the moment. So what's the point of killing yourself if the game is done? Yeah. Just go through the motions a little bit and manage whatever injuries you may have, because you can't be rested. You have to manage yourself. But against Sparta Prague this week, you can see that when in this system, when Marino plays, we almost play like a diamond, and Saka becomes a guy with 6 shots. And suddenly he's the centre forward. He's the one going side to side. So it's a moment of, okay, I need to do it now. There you go, it's done. I've got the most shots. I've got the most touches in the box, and we go from there. So I do think there's a maturity about how we're approaching games now. Not so emotional as we were called a couple of years ago. We were emotional, and we were younger. We were 2 years younger. When I was younger, I was quite emotional too. And so, but now we're a lot more matured.
Yeah. It does feel like that for sure. I mean, we're going to come back to the current side kind of throughout this episode, because we are framing it around how many of the current side get in against the Invincibles 11. And obviously, the Invincibles completed something that's never been done before, or not in the modern era at least, a record that I don't think will probably ever be beaten, or not in the immediate future. It does feel pretty unachievable, let's say. But we're going to put them position against position. So let's start in goal, where there are positions in this 11 where it's a bit of a tap-in for the Invincible, but I think there's some contentious positions, and I think in goal, Clive, there's definitely a case for David Raya over Jens Lehmann. Where would you kind of lean on that?
This is a struggle for me. As I was coming down today, I was thinking about this one. I can't help but think about where the game is today. And the goalkeeper position has just transformed. We never even thought about it until Pep kicked out Joe Hart. Then we started to think about this position. What does it actually mean? And he'd worked it out. Distribution, and having the +1 at the back, I mean, it transforms your team. When you're a defensive team, if you know the goalkeeper can literally find anybody on the pitch, that is very stressful for you. That means you can never rest, knowing he's got the quality to reach players. But also when you want to go and press teams, we all understand that if a goalkeeper hasn't got feet of clay, you can get passed through. And I suppose this position has been one of the most modern transformational positions. Mm-hmm. And David Raya is one of the very best at this, So it's how you see that position. I mean, for many Arsenal fans, David Seaman is the best ever goalkeeper we've ever had. If you look at football tactically, as I do, David Raya has made me think about the game completely differently. And we look a much more settled, controlled team since the moment he's come in. So for me, even though I think I'm going to upset some, I think Raya has been magnificent. And the only thing he can't do is he can't make himself 6'3.5". That's the only thing that I would change for him. Really.
He kind of does when he claims crosses, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for his height. I thought you might go for Lehmann, but who I do think deserves credit for coming in, and it was his first season, the Invincibles. He was replacing someone like David Raya. And actually, Lehmann's departure created a real problem position for Arsenal for years with Almunia and Fabianski and Szczesny, who wasn't the goalkeeper that he subsequently turned out to be as well. So respect to Jens Lehmann for what he achieved at Arsenal, but I do think David Raya is, aside from Courtois, probably the best goalkeeper in the world, and I know a lot of people would even claim that he's the best goalkeeper in the world right now with Alisson's injury issues. So I'm going with David Raya as well. Mikey, you're kind of adjudicating this episode.
Yeah,
are you comfortable?
Yeah,
with that?
I'm pretty happy with David Raya. I think with Lehmann, like you say, credit to him for coming in and replacing a club legend, and then being part of that Invincibles team. But I just think whenever Raya leaves Arsenal, or if he retires at Arsenal, I looking into the future a bit, I feel like he will probably leave a more significant legacy than Lehmann did. Lehmann obviously had an amazing career, and being part of the Invincibles, huge achievement. He did also get to the Champions League final with Arsenal, to be fair. I do forget that.
And he got sent off.
And he got sent off.
And I was in that stadium, and I do forgive him.
Yeah.
I just never watched it
about.
again.
It's actually funny because Arsenal that season I say only, is still a great amount of clean sheets, but they kept 15. And actually since 2003-04, when the Premier League Golden Glove was introduced, that's the second lowest tally. Raya and Matt Sells last year had 14, and then Joe Hart, I think in 13-14, had 14 too. Yeah. So it wasn't a freakish season by Jens Lehmann, although Arsenal were a phenomenal side, obviously.
It is mad, that, isn't it? The relative lack of clean sheets from Arsenal in that campaign, because it wasn't actually the highest scoring, most free scoring Arsenal team we saw under Arsene Wenger, and there were 12 draws in there as well. So you'd think like there'd be quite a lot of clean sheets that more than that. But yeah, I think this might be a running theme with the defence, to be honest. But I'm going to give it to Raya.
Well, okay, let's move on to right back. And again, I think there's very few sort of tap-ins for the current side, but Jurrien Timber versus Lauren probably feels like one of the closest, or the biggest difference, for this current side.
Again, Lauren was one of the first players that, when he came to us, so he was brought as a midfielder, and Wenger put him into right back, and we were wondering, what's he doing? Again, this is quite new, and he was very good in the ball, and we can progress through him, he would carry it, etc. And in his time, he was excellent. He was fearsome in the challenge against that Manchester United team. I always we need a few players who I call car park players, right? If there's a fight in the car park, you need to know there's a few that are going to be there. And he would have been one of those, for definite. So I loved him. But Timber's just something else.
Especially this season. Do you think he's just gone up a new level as well?
He has. When he had his cruciate, it's a major moment. I think we'd won the league sooner if he didn't get that injury. And no one knew about him, so we just dismissed it as an injury to a young player. But it's an important moment. So when he came back, I went to LA for the pre-season. I watched him, and I went, "Oh dear, he's playing. He's just playing. And now he's in the team for real. And another injury, but he's come back from that. Ability 1-on-1, excellent. Play both sides if you want him to, but doesn't need to anymore. He can drive. He can cross. He can carry. He can dribble. He's quite agile. And so the phrase I always use with him is, if he's on the left wing, he looks like a left winger. If he's on the right wing, he looks like a right. And wherever you put him, the number on his back changes. And I think he could do a job in centre midfield. He's just an all-round classic Ajax grown player, but it's a serious captain and leader as well within the group, So outstanding player.
Yeah, I think this season, 13 more tackles than any other Arsenal player. He actually leads you for passes into the box. And in the Premier League, there's only 13 players in the entire Premier League that have completed more passes into the box than Jurrien Timber. And I was, at the start of the season, even questioning whether the Ben White sort of era of him and right back was a more fluid Arsenal team, but it doesn't seem like it's having an effect on Arsenal's fluidity now. Jurrien Timber, I think, has just taken that position to new levels, Mikey.
Do you think Lauren was underrated in that Invincibles team, though? I feel like when we speak about that Invincibles team, especially that defence as well, Lauren's name doesn't come up as much.
I think the difference with that team and maybe the teams we have today, so Arsenal maybe last year was very much of a right-sided bias team. Saka, Odegaard, Havertz rolling into that side as well. Our pass match was lopsided completely on that side. And maybe the Invincible team was the other way, on the left-hand side, with Henry, with Pires, with Cole. And so the right-hand side was more of just a steadying side, a stabilising side, and we would just protect to allow the left-hand side to flourish, you know. So maybe he would be underrated because of that. Not underrated amongst Arsenal fans, without a doubt, you know. He's right up there, but to the outside world, I think maybe just a steady, quiet player.
Let's move into centre-backs, and I think we should probably discuss them as a 4, because you might want to pick out a different combination based on them. But the names in the hat, Clive, we've got Sol Campbell and Kolo Toure, and we've got Saliba and Gabriel.
Yeah.
Amazing options, all 4 of them.
Yep.
Where do you want to go?
So, I feel as though I don't know why you invited me to do this. I feel as though I want to use the word pairs a lot in this conversation, because you'll see from what the team I'm going to come out with, and I think, and also football, how it's changed. We start with the goalkeeper. So I'll be honest with you, if the goalkeeper's rolling it out to Saliba or he's rolling it out to Sol Campbell, I know which one I'm more comfortable with, because the game has changed. Centre backs requirements have changed. You know, back in those days, the goalkeeper would get it and he would kick it to the halfway line, and it's about second balls. So the requirements of the centre backs were purely one-on-one defending, how strong you are, how you protect your box. The defensive side of the game, ball progression was not part of the conversation that we were having back then. I do remember the very first time I saw Campbell and Toure together, pre-season friendly, 2003 Rangers, and as soon as I saw them, I went, we're winning the league. Because they were absolutely, you couldn't run them, you couldn't beat them, you couldn't do anything with them. You know, so their power just leapt out at you. So, but football today is about relationships, it is about partnerships, and it is about many more things in many more zones of the pitch. And the 2 we have today, I think, are the best we've ever had. The only thing that stops me, the only thing that stops me saying that with real chest is the lack of medals that they have. That's the only thing. On a football competency point of view, there's nothing they can't do. Literally nothing. In both boxes, how they carry, how they pass, their pace, their size, the amount of touches they have in the modern game. They're in the 80 touch region every single game. They can fade it onto the side. They can run out with it. They do everything, you know. And so again, you just have to look at the modern game. I'm not someone who lives in the past. I'm someone who looks at football and how it has evolved, and the way football is. I think this is where the game is. The only caveat I sort of had, I remember thinking at the time, in that period of time, Sol Campbell may have been the best centre back in Europe, in the world. But that's a debate, and I'm very Arsenal centric. I used to think we had the best spine: Campbell, Vieira, Henry. The rest of you can do what you like. You know, that's what it felt like at the time where I was in looking at football. But again, I couldn't take away from the fact of the pairs. I couldn't take away from the fact if you've got that goalkeeper, we're going to play. If we're going to play, then the current 2 are the 2 I choose.
And I mean, you speak about Sol Campbell's reputation at the time, although I mean, he was also in the era of kind of Nesta, Ferdinand, Maldini as well. But I mean, Gabriel this season is being spoken about as the best player in the Premier League right now, which is very rare for a defender. You know, probably the first time there's been a conversation about that since probably the early years of Van Dijk at Liverpool. And then you think about Saliba, last 2-3 years as well. He's probably been in the conversation for, you know, top 3, 4, 5 players in the Premier League, full stop as well. So, yeah, I don't know, it's a difficult one. I feel like I was maybe a little bit young to fully assess Sol Campbell's career when it happened. I think I saw probably the last 2 or 3 years of his peak, kind of, Invincibles era, and then 2006, 2007. So yeah, I don't know where you stand, Dougie. I think it's slight recency bias as well, the fact that Arsenal's defence, you know, this could be the greatest Premier League defence ever if they keep this up. Obviously things can change this season, but off the basis of this season, and actually off the basis of the last 2 seasons, you know, Arsenal have consistently had the best defence in the league, give or take. Since these 2 have played together, it is hard to look past them. I feel like we're being really harsh on the Invincibles here, but it is hard to look past them.
There's more to come.
It'll definitely come. I was tempted more by Campbell and Gabriel, but then it's really difficult. I think Sol Campbell, I mean, similarly to you, despite my appearance, I'm only 31, so I didn't see him necessarily at his prime, but he arrives, wins the double, wins the FA Cup, then goes invincible. It's a pretty impressive first 3 years at your club, especially given the scrutiny on that transfer. Obviously, it's still probably the most controversial transfer in Premier League history. And he made it work so effectively. And I think he was a phenomenal player. I think Gabriel's probably marginally outplayed Saliba for the last couple of years, but that's no fault of Saliba. I just think Gabriel's got to that level now. So I was potentially thinking Gabriel and Campbell, but let's go with a clean sweep of Arsenal current so far, and let the comments decide whether we're right on that. I mean, the next one's an absolute tap-in for the Invincibles, to be totally honest. Ashley Cole versus Ricardo Calafiori. But I think what's probably more interesting to ask you, Clive, is Ricardo Calafiori, injured for much of last year. Marslow Skelly plays, but he comes back, and again, like Timber coming back from injury, this is now a really complete all-round attacking threat as well as a brilliant defender.
Yeah, I think he's frying our brains, isn't he, about what he's doing in the game. And I think he's just one of these people, one of those players that when the ball comes, he just, no matter where he is, just not the way I was brought up. Basically, if you played a centre mid, you didn't move from those spots, right? And he just floats around the pitch, and when the ball comes, it just goes through him. It just flows through him, and he just goes where he feels that he has an innate feel for the game, you know. And so and he's the sort of player you can't ignore. So when he's striding through, you've got to do something, haven't you? You can't just let him run through. And when space is one thing, but when you arrive into space late, you cause problems for people because they've got to pass you on to somebody. And in that split second, the ball's gone again, and you're now reacting to our movement, and that's one of our big tricks. And so again, he's educating me on what an attacking fullback is, and maybe Timber is as well. We're brought up in attacking fullbacks be overlappers. We learn about front fives now, and can our attacking fullback make it a front six, +1 on the outside, put a cross in, score a goal, right? So Ben White, perfect for that. Long runs, great soft feet to cross the ball. Kieran Tierney in our recent past, very similar. But now we've got these two. And you can't really pin what they're doing. They're underlapping, they're overlapping, they're doing all sorts of things in there, and they're re-educating us. But then we come back to Ashley Cole, and I don't care I don't care how he left. This is a well beater. One of the saddest times really, what happened with him, but I'm not one to speak about that. But let's talk about football. When it comes to football, he was Arsenal born, Arsenal bred, and in that period of time, he just grew into the team. And just represented the club in a really, really good way. And outstanding in one-on-ones. When you try to go behind, just forget it. He's too sharp off the mark. And then as soon as you think you're having a rest, he's gone past you the other way, And so complete dominance on that side. He locks it down in all facets, all phases of play. And if he was around today, I wonder, what
I think his
what would he
attacking
be like?
numbers would be so much higher. I think people look back at, you think about the kind of left back he was. You look back at his kind of goal and assist numbers. They weren't. They never really got that high. But I think now the way the game's gone, he would have been utilised to devastating effect.
I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo calls him his toughest opponent of his career.
Yeah.
And there was no one in the Premier League that came close to kind of containing him for that 4 or 5 year spell. But Ashley Cole did on a number of occasions. Yeah, he actually walks into this team. Just quickly on Calafiori, only Gyokeres has taken more shots in the Arsenal team than Calafiori. I actually back Calafiori. His shooting's been a little bit wild so far in terms of his shot accuracy. I think he'll probably finish with 5-6 goals this season. I think, really, really good start to the season from him. Right, we move into midfield, and there's a titanic clash to come. But Gilberto Silva versus Zubimendi. Feels a bit brutal on Zubimendi. He's obviously brand new at Arsenal.
Yeah.
What a start to his career. But maybe more interesting, Clive, for our younger viewers, what did you kind of make of Gilberto Silva's time at the club? Because he, similarly to someone like Jens Lehmann, made a big immediate impact when he arrived.
Yeah, so when he came after winning the World Cup, didn't he? And I'm thinking, he's just won the World Cup. I wish I'd have watched him a bit closer. and he's come in, and he was the sort of midfielder that you sort of ignored almost, And there were periods in his Arsenal career when he came out the team. I think people really appreciated him when he wasn't playing. And so, I think he was a smooth player, a covering player, an athletic player. I haven't got a good memory of a pivot like Zubimendi per se, but he was a complementary player to Patrick Vieira, And it's about, I want to use pairs a lot in this. This is the only one I debated a pair in, and it probably is not quite the right balance, but I think he was brilliant for this Arsenal team. And the athletes that we had and the way we progressed, we needed a counterbalance to that. And football is about balance, isn't it? Team selection is about balance. We spoke about Liverpool earlier. Look what they're doing. They had to refine their balance. All good players, but their balance was off. And now they've got their balance back and their results are turning around. Gilberto is a key part of our balance in that team. So yeah, very well respected.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, he got injured the following season, and Chelsea kind of walked the league that year. And they probably would have, given how good their defence was that year anyway. But that did feel pretty massive. Mikey, do you have any thoughts on Zubimendi, Gilberto Silva?
Yeah, I mean, I think Zubimendi's been another transformational player in this Arsenal team this season. Again, like the fact he's just arrived, it's hard to, talk about, him compared to the legacy of Gilberto Silva. But I do wonder whether, like you're saying with the pairs, whether there is any variation here in terms of the two more sitting midfielders, whether you go for, because I assume Vieira's a shoo-in, whether you pair Rice with him or Gilberto Silva maybe, because I think Zubimendi, it's just too early to tell. I don't know what your thinking was with this.
I wanted to be quite brutal and set up the clash of Rice versus Vieira.
Okay.
But you can of course mix it up in the combinations. Of course.
I just still think as amazing as Rice has been in the Premier League, I still don't know if it is a clash between him and Vieira. I think Vieira is just such a Premier League legend, and I know we've spoken a lot about style of play and what they bring to the team, early 2000s football versus now. But I do think like Vieira just has to be there on legacy and medals and was he Wenger's first signing or did he run just before Wenger?
Second
I mean,
signing,
it's just everything that everything that he was to that.
I was looking earlier
that era of Arsenal.
In his 9 years at Arsenal, he was in the team of the season 6 times. Pretty crazy.
PFA team of the season.
Yeah.
It's just insane, isn't it?
Really, I mean, what crazy consistency. And actually, there was speculation, I'd kind of forgotten this, numerous times that he was going to leave Arsenal at various points to Man United. There was Chelsea, Real Madrid, Florentino Pires said, I want the best player in every position. I want Patrick Vieira. That nearly happened. And he stays another year after, I think there was that big summer where he nearly left. And
scores the winning penalty in the FA Cup
scores the winning
final.
penalty, exactly. I would say, and I'm going to take this slowly because I don't want this to be misconstrued. I think Rice has, Vieira didn't necessarily have the dead ball ability of Declan Rice.
Yeah.
But aside from that, Rice has not matched Vieira for me in any category just yet. I don't know whether you agree with that, Clive.
Well, no one can match Vieira in my mind, right? So he's my favourite Arsenal player of all time, right? So,
really?
Of all time. Him, Ian Wright, Thierry Henry, that's my top three. And at that time, that period, when he came in, not only did he have to settle into a new country, etc., he was part of a new wave of foreign players. He was also the only centre midfielder of his type. We hadn't seen a 6'4" centre mid. That physicality, but also the technical ability. He was totally unique, the way he would drive, he would go past people, but also he had to adapt to the English game, the physical game, which he was able to do.
Because he had quite a few disciplinary problems in his first couple of years,
yeah.
Is that right?
I think a lot of that is
just reputation.
And he's not a little flower,
no.
Right? And when you're a little bit smaller and a little bit more nondescript, you make a foul. Sorry, ref, I'll jog off. When he makes a foul, I need to control him. You now got a yellow. I need to manage you. He
signifies Arsenal.
Yeah, I need to manage you. And if anything else happens, suddenly you're off.
Yeah.
And you think, what have I done? I've just made 2 fouls. And I know, very
Arsenal.
Arsenal.
There's lots of talks that he was coming out to the paper saying, I feel victimised. And I think that was almost hinting when he was thinking about leaving to Real Madrid.
Yeah.
I don't know how far that really got along, but that was definitely a factor, I think.
Yeah, outstanding player. And he was the symbol of the team. So you've got to go up and punch the biggest kid in the playground if you want to win the fight. And he was that player. Absolutely outstanding. He's in his team. I was thinking about this. And again, Declan Rice is maybe the time we're starting to replace Vieira finally within the group. And what he can do in the modern game is just outstanding. I mean, he can truly play a 6, truly play. He did a bit of it this week. But how he's developed over the last 2-3 years in using 2 feet, range of pass. Obviously, he's probably our best dead ball striker, full stop. He's arriving into the box. He's not the same player we bought. He's been developed. And maybe that's cost us times. I think there were times last year when he played the 8 role and he was very high coming back to the ball. And I felt it was wrong, for him. I think for now he's in a position where he can see the game. He's not quite a 6 and he's not quite a high 8 coming back and playing back to goal. That's not you. But if I can see the game, it means I can break, I can control momentum to the game, I can play the second balls, but I can also, when the team needs to go forward, I can carry it forward. If we need to switch the point attack, I can do that. And I just can't get back to the competencies of the football match. And I think he is turning into one of the very, very best centre midfielders. And this isn't like recency. This is just look and just see what he can do, how he receives the ball, how this is developing. And he's 26. And I think this is not quite an old man position, but it's a mature position in centre midfield. And he's not even close to his peak yet. So, again, we haven't got the medals to back this up. You know, if you want to put your medals on the table, then the Invincibles win every single time. But if you're talking football competencies, my two for my life would be Declan Rice and Patrick Vieira.
I think it's a hell of a combination.
Yeah.
And Rice would be very, very comfortable, ceding maybe a little bit of freedom to Patrick Vieira as well. Let's move into the attacking areas, and we'll come back to the sort of number 10, because the Invincibles played a slightly different system to what the Arteta side does now. But let's go to the left-hand side. I think this is one of the most straightforward ones of the entire episode. Robert Pires versus Martinelli, Trossard. Madueke, we haven't really seen there yet. But Robert Pires, seriously underrated player as well. I feel like he's never really in the conversation for best ever Premier League wingers, but he was right up there in his era, Clive. Amazing consistency as well.
Yeah, this is about the balance of the team. You know, so Sol Campbell would play left centre back, but he would roll around a little bit in behind that side where we'd attacked. Then when you tried to exit onto his side, he would look after it. So we could allow Robert Pires to not work backward as much because we wanted him going forward and connecting with the other players on that left-hand side, which was the old unit. Outstanding player again, technically brilliant. Took a while to settle in physically. Once he did, he just took over. Again, he was in a nice little armchair there. You've got Thierry Henry running away. Oh, I'll do 1-2 with you. Just have a bit of fun playing amongst ourselves. And when you're getting a bit of trouble, Ashley Cole just appears on your wing mirrors and gives you a running target there. And then you've got an inside target in Dennis Bergkamp. So he's sitting there with all his technical ability, all his two-footedness, all this intelligence, and I've got all these people to pass to. And it's on the same wavelength. Yeah. It's outstanding.
It was crazy. I mean, that season, the Invincibles year as well, he finishes with 19 goals and 14 assists in all competitions. Amazing. And 14 league goals in 3 consecutive seasons, I think. Martinelli had that amazing year where he got 15, and that felt like maybe we're watching the next, or one of the future wonder kids of our sport. Obviously, he hasn't managed to replicate that just yet, although he has had a solid start to the season when fit. But Robert Pires, Mikey, this is very straightforward.
Yeah, I think he doesn't enter the conversations about best ever Premier League left wing, or at least he doesn't. He feel like we don't see him in those conversations about all-time Premier League 11. Maybe because it was a fairly condensed period. It was a 3-4 season period in which he was just, almost unplayable, but maybe didn't have the longevity of, I guess, Giggs, now Salah, even Ronaldo we saw go from kind of wonder kid status to best player in the world at Man United across 6 seasons before he went to Real Madrid. So I think the way that we kind of perceive those things, in terms of longevity and being part of, I guess, teams in different eras, maybe plays into that. And also, I guess, the fact that as for all the amazing magic that we saw from Robert Pires at Arsenal, Thierry Henry would just obviously go one better. He was almost overshadowed by the greatest Premier League player of all time, because Henry was producing stuff that was just that next level from Pires.
Well, he's got a battle to make this.
Also a sad one with Pires. Go back to the Lehmann thing. His last appearance for Arsenal was being subbed off in the Champions League final because of Lehmann sending off, which I think, just a bit of a sad way to go out, given the result of that game. I think this is maybe not the most one-sided part of this team, but certainly, I think the most one-sided battle we've had so far.
Well, thinking of one-sided, let's go to a more tense debate, which is probably not the other 2 positions, but on the right-hand side, Clive, Freddie Ljungberg, Bukayo Saka. Wow, I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts on this one.
Freddie Ljungberg had some real high points at Arsenal. Real high point. Again, it's about balance. He had his passing players, so he could turn into an off-the-ball player. On the ball, his abilities weren't really strong. He was quite steady, but off the ball, he was sensational. He would just arrive into areas. Again, that is a major plus in today's game, even arriving into areas and having the ability to just finish off. And he had some periods where he was literally the most formed player in our team. But maybe I'm wired differently, Bukayo Saka represents so much to this current Arsenal football club, full stop. You know, he represents everything that we are, our values from the academy coming up into the first team. He's also travelled a journey through when we weren't as good as we are maybe today. And he's been part of us turning this around. His ability on the ball, off the ball, scoring, assisting, but also emotionally. I think some of these players have a really emotional impact when you're watching a game. And he has a really emotional impact to the Arsenal fan base, you know. And even when he has a down game, we all sort of brush it away. Don't worry, he'll be back. And he is back, you know. And I think sometimes when you watch a game as a fan, we all love our teams, you want to connect to people on the pitch. And he is the one that most people connect to. When you look at the history of Arsenal, there's probably 3 or 4 players, we mentioned them today, that make people around the world support you. And the modern day Thierry Henry is Bukayo Saka being, you know, around the world. He's loved by all different parts of society in this country, etc. Around America and Africa. He's just loved, you know, and the game has become a lot more global. And he is part of the globalisation of Arsenal for sure.
If I think of anyone I know who isn't into football at all, I think if you ask them about modern football, if you ask them to name a footballer now, like likely Bukayo Saka would be one of the top ones, or at least if you ask them to name an English footballer. Can't really think of anyone else, even in that England team, maybe aside from Harry Kane, that has that kind of iconic status. First couple of seasons he was playing left wing back as well and excelled there as well. Like I think his defensive contributions in, you know, the early Arteta era were really underrated. I can't really. Yeah, again, it's not as much of a walkover as Pires against Trossard and Martinelli, but I love Bukayo Saka. Yeah.
Saka's got to be in. Got to be in. Right, let's go to that number 10 slot or the attacking midfielder. We could have Eze in there. We could have Odegaard in there. But we're only going to have Dennis Bergkamp. I mean, sensational player. Again, doesn't feel like he enters those discussions for best Premier League player ever. But I think there's a strong argument that he should be a top 5 in most people's lists. He definitely was in mine as a neutral in this kind of, definitely in this period, this sort of decade or so. And although his goal scoring, he was a better goal scorer for the Netherlands and he had an amazing goal scoring record at Ajax before going to Inter, before going to Arsenal, he never probably put up the goal scoring numbers to enter those all-time discussions of best Premier League ever strikers. But he was also doing so much in midfield. He was connecting the whole thing, his creativity, the quality of individual goals as well. People talk about Giroud's goal catalogue. If you watch it on YouTube, like Dennis Bergkamp has one of the most ridiculous goal catalogues in sort of modern day football history. Absolutely sensational. You know, 116 assists for Arsenal, 120 goals, 0.56 goal contributions per game. That's outstanding in a team where that wasn't necessarily his job to be on the end of chances as well. He made football watchable, and we miss more characters like him.
He also drove to all the European away games because he was scared of flying, didn't he?
Yeah,
I don't know why that just suddenly came into my mind.
It's not.
And
so he
was exhausted.
As well.
Yeah. He was exhausted.
Yeah, unlike Henry and Vieira, who are not. You know, everyone wants to go and achieve what they want to achieve in their careers, but Dennis Bergkamp finished at Arsenal, and I think that's quite special, Clive.
Absolutely. For many, many people, he is the best Arsenal player in our history, right? And I think he's probably one of the most transformational, because when he signed, it's like, is he signing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, this is interesting. And so to him to come and sign and then transform how we were perceived and also play very, very well, you know, I think was really important. I think, he was part of the modernisation of Arsenal, really. And I think, again, you have those players in your history that turn your history around just to a slightly different direction. And he was absolutely one of them, a standard bearer for the team. And to think this Invincible team had the players that they did have all at the same time, the one regret I do have is Paris 2006. And I've got to say, Chelsea 2004 quarter-final when Wayne Bridge scored. The single saddest moment of my Arsenal life was that evening, because we all knew this team should have a European Cup.
Yeah. And
we didn't quite manage the multiple competitions. And these players actually deserved a little bit more. They probably deserved 3 league titles in a row, 2002, 2003, 2004, and they dropped the European Cup in this group as well. So And that still grates me today. It's not going to take away from my selections or anything like that. But I think they deserve more for their impact to the modern game. And so Bergkamp definitely was transformational for us. A stellar player. And again, when you see Dave Bergkamp's name now, it's associated to Arsenal. And that's a great credit to him, really, what he actually did.
Do you think Thierry Henry could have achieved what he achieved at Arsenal without Dennis Bergkamp alongside him?
I think he would have done, but I don't think he would want to. Yeah, I think because when you're part of a good side, you want to do it with people that you have a connection with, and I don't think he'd want to. Thierry Henry is a good footballer, full stop. But
I mean, that's an understatement.
Yeah, it's a good footballer, full stop. It's like, but you want to do it with people that get you. You know, understand your strengths, give you the ball how you want it, etc. That's not always the case. Environments do matter. You know, how many players you see move clubs and they suddenly blossom? You think, hold on, they were rubbish over there. You know, and environments do matter. The balance of a team that matters. I think team selection is a constant search for balance. You know, when you see it, you know it. The moment it's gone, we're discussing it and looking at the data and looking at what's happened. You know, balance is what you're searching for, and the attacking balance we had at that period of time was perfect.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it almost seems silly to even talk about the next one. No disrespect to Victor Gyokeres, who's gone
No
off
disrespect to Mikel Merino.
And Mikel Merino. I mean, Victor
I think
Gyokeres, I think he's gone off to a slightly underrated start during his time at Arsenal. And actually, last weekend against Burnley, in the 45 minutes that he did play, I thought it was his best sort of 45 minutes, let's say.
Should we talk about Gyokeres first, then?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, Clive, how happy are you with the sort of impact that Gyokeres has made and the sort of differences it's made in terms of how he stretches the play, and it does seem to, the fluidity that you can play with in transition now as well. It's been a positive signing.
Very positive. I think there's two sides to the ledger as always. With a player that's coming in, he didn't come in very, very fit, and so I think he struggled for sharpness. And his two best games, funny enough, is when he's had a rest. So he had a rest pre the Newcastle game, and he had a rest pre the Burnley game, and then he looks much sharper, more mobile. He's winning his races more, and he just looks brighter in his distribution and connections. And so I like him for what he's done to us. When you've got somebody like him, whose primary skill is his mobility and movement and power, he attracts people to him, but also he almost tells you how you have to play. You can't sit there and watch him make 14 runs not giving the ball. Otherwise, there's going to be a video session on Monday, right? So you have to give him the ball. So I think we've become a better watch because of that. I think we were almost too controlled, too technical. We're dominating games without making people excited, right? So now it's a little bit more uncontrolled. I like it, and he does that for us. So his impact has been on the pattern of play has maybe been slightly higher than the actual goal output. But my feeling has always been when we get Kai Havertz back, we're going to get two players that can also have full power in that position. And I think both of them will be better for each other.
Mikey, just quickly on Thierry Henry, I assume that Clive has him as his best player in Premier League history. I've got him as my best player in Premier League history.
You assume correctly.
Do you? And if so, who's second? How close is it? Is he a distant first?
Yeah, I think he's a clear first.
Would it be Rooney for you?
I think Rooney maybe in terms of. I mean, Rooney's my favourite Man United player of all time. But that's your favourite. I think if you're looking at an objective, who is the best Premier League player of all time, I think Henry is still, leagues ahead. I think, Salah has to be in that conversation now. I mean, 250 goals for Liverpool in 8 years is just, it is remarkable. Doesn't quite have the, how many Premier Leagues did Thierry Henry win? Three. So Salah, could end up, leaving Liverpool with the same amount of Premier League titles. But then, Salah aesthetically just isn't quite the same level as Henry was. What he showcased in a totally different era of Premier League football is, I think is pretty unmatched. I guess Shearer comes into that equation as well. I guess you look at the midfield powerhouses as well, Vieira, Gerrard, Lampard, they all have to be up there. But I think in terms of both the numbers and the kind of joy that he brought every single week almost, I still don't think anyone really comes close. It's a mad one given that he left the Premier League nearly 20 years ago. but no one's really quite come close to him. Obviously, I forget Ronaldo as well. Obviously, what he did in those years.
But his
at United
prime was,
amazing.
I mean, he was definitely entering his prime at United, but it was really at Real Madrid.
Premier League wise, I mean, he still did 3 in a row with United and had 2. Two of those seasons were like, he was absolutely unstoppable, and was he was in his prime on free kicks, Ronaldo, during that time. But yeah, still Henry.
For you, Clive, it's just. Actually, he wasn't your favourite ever player, was it? It was Vieira.
Well, that's just personal. I mean, I love Vieira, I love Ian Wright, and the impact they had on me growing up, etc. So that's just personal. But Thierry Henry is the best player ever, the greatest Arsenal player, and best player I've seen. And the way I describe it is, I just think some of the things he did was jaw dropping. And then when you're watching football, that when you drop your jaw, that's when and probably the only one that's closest to that is probably Ronaldo from a jaw-dropping perspective. There was a period when he had the speed and power and he was dominating football matches. He's the closest, made me think, oh my goodness. Another one for jaw-dropping ability, probably Gareth Bale for a period. Remember that?
Yeah.
Just for jaw-dropping ability. But Thierry Henry did it over a period of time. Goals, assists, cultural impact around the world. Just incredible player. And he's almost like a footballer's footballer. When you meet footballers and you ask them a question, it's like, well, it's Thierry Henry.
Yeah.
The ones of those era, they just go, Thierry Henry. He was just a mile away from everybody else. And when I was watching it, I never realised that. And I sometimes look at the comps around today and think, I watched this, but did I really watch it? Did I watch it? Because some of the stuff is just incredible. Some of it for France as well, just incredible. Again, if he was around today, we wouldn't miss a beat of this. We'd be all over it, and it'd be even greater impact to us. But I almost think his impact is growing because of the digital world that we live in. It's growing, and so yeah, incredible player, incredible man. Yeah.
I mean, there'll be people watching this video who aren't old enough to actually remember him in his prime, which is pretty mad to think. But yeah, so I feel sorry for them.
For sure. We are the lucky ones, for sure. What's lovely about him as well is, like, you can take it any debate you want. Sort of people love to go down the stats route, and he backs up the stats, aesthetics.
Everything.
Like he was as fun to watch as Eden Hazard, but was 5 times more effective than Eden Hazard. Like it's just brilliant.
Yeah, that finish cutting in off the left was just like
sensational.
I actually, to the point where I remember. Obviously, has sadly had nowhere near the career that Henry had. But when Man United signed Martial, and that first game when Benteke scores the overhead kick for Liverpool, and then Martial comes on, and with 5 minutes remaining comes in, and I remember that finish. I just remember like jumping up and down in the pub, just shouting, "We've got the new Henry." That's how iconic. He somehow made this like fairly simple finish just so iconic because he just scored it every single time.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Right, guys, in terms of our team, I think it's what a side this is. David Raya, Jurrien Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, then Ashley Cole. Really strong current sort of defence. In midfield, we've gone with Patrick Vieira and Declan Rice. Then we've got Pires, Bergkamp, Saka, and Thierry Henry.
Like it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty inarguable.
That is a strong 11. Guys, let us know where you agree. I don't think there'll be that many of the people that disagree. Maybe in defence, but get your thoughts in the comments down below. Massive thanks once again to Clive Palmer for coming back on. Clive, if people have enjoyed watching you here, where can they listen to you? Where can they watch you?
I do a bit of podcasting on the Arsenal Vision podcast primarily, and after that team, hopefully I can still go to matches. And so yeah, it should be good.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure to hear your thoughts as ever. Guys, thanks so much for watching The Lowdown. We'll be back soon. Goodbye.